I committed adultery. I did this.
Don't.
I'm just a normal kid.
You're a normal kid who killed your parents.
It was the scandal she could never escape. She was a teacher, married with children. He was her 12-year-old student. But he wasn't just the teacher's pet. He became her lover.
This 12-year-old boy says to you, Mrs. Letourneau, would you ever have an affair?
I thought, do not look him in the eyes.
Barbara Walters' no-holds-barred interview with Mary Kay Letourneau.
Did you try to resist this?
I knew that it was bizarre.
And her jaw-dropping interview with Mary and Billy as they celebrate their 10th wedding anniversary.
What did you tell your children?
The real story of an American scandal.
One of the strangest stories I've reported is that of Mary Kay Letourneau and Willy Falau. She was a 34-year-old mother of 4 and a teacher. He was her 6th grade student, over 2 decades younger than she was. They became lovers. The question everyone had was, why would this lovely woman be attracted to this boy? This is the Shorewood Elementary School in Seattle. In December of 1995, Mrs. Letourneau, the 6th grade teacher, held a Christmas party. The 6th graders worked with their 1st grade buddies on art projects. That's 12-year-old Willy Falau on the right. Willy has a big crush on his teacher, Mrs. Letourneau. He thinks she looks like a movie star. Mary Kay Letourneau is one of the school's most popular teachers. She's 34. She and her husband, Steve, have 4 children. Mary wants to help Willy. He is a first-generation Samoan boy from a rough part of town. His father is in prison. His mother works several jobs. Willy is inattentive in class. He may have ADD. Willy loves to draw, and he's good at it. As a teacher, Mary wants to bring out Willy's potential. But the relationship will take an unexpected, shocking turn. Within a year, the teacher and her student will be having sex. Mary and Willy will be discovered. She will become pregnant. She will be arrested. She will lose her husband, her children, her home, her freedom, her profession. She will be made to register as a sex offender. The resulting scandal will rock the community and make headlines around the world, and will leave us with questions. How could she do it? Was it a sickness? Was it perversion? Or was it love? Add to those questions this. Mary and Willy are now married and the parents of 2 thriving teenage daughters. Could Mary have seen her future in the face of a 12-year-old boy? Hello, Mary. When I first met Mary in 2004, it was just a month after her release from a 7-year prison sentence for having sex with a minor. She told me about Willy's first day in her class.
Well, he came in late, and I mean late by at least a week. And we had already bonded as a class. But it was also late in the day, in the morning. He was a little bit older than the other students, and there was just a huge disruption too. And I remember thinking, here comes trouble.
Mary spent extra time after school with some of her students. Willy, who loved to draw, was one of them. Is Willy a very good artist?
He's gifted. There are many good artists out there. He is truly gifted.
Writer Greg Olson is the author of If Loving You Is Wrong, the definitive book about Mary Kay Letourneau. He conducted dozens of interviews with Mary's colleagues at Shorewood School.
They thought Mary was very creative, that she was somebody who would work endless hours to make sure that whatever she was creating for her students was absolutely perfect. But they also saw a side of her that seemed erratic and not responsible, and it troubled some of them.
Teaching was the bright spot in Mary's life. She was not happy with her husband, Steve. They had met in college. They were dating casually when Mary got accidentally pregnant. Would you have married him? Were you not pregnant?
I don't think I'll ever know that.
Describe your marriage to me. Describe your husband.
I feel he provided very well. I've always complimented him as a husband and a man for keeping a job, and I think that says a lot.
Was it a good marriage? Was it a fulfilling marriage? Help me to understand where you were at that point.
I would say that it was okay under the circumstances. I felt I knew him, but I didn't feel that he knew me.
Eventually, Steve would begin to see other women. In the fall of 1995, when Billy entered Mary's 6th grade class, Mary and Steve were essentially separated, but living under one roof. I have to ask you, were you faithful to your husband before Billy?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Billy. While all this was going on, was Billy very good to you? Did he fill that void?
There was, and there still is, so much respect in our relationship. There was just our shared passions, just artistically, and even not artistically, just the way our minds work together and the way we love each other.
When did you first feel any kind of attraction?
Late in the year, I knew that he had girl interests, and I did suspect, I knew definitely it was extending in my direction, and I just really ignored it. I just thought that was...
He would say things to you? Like what?
Well, one time he just came straight out and said, "Would you ever have an affair?"
This 13-year-old boy says to his teacher, "Would you ever have an affair?"
He wasn't even 13 yet. And I thought it was very bold, and I thought to myself, do not look him in the eyes. And then I made a general reference to when people are in a loving marriage or relationship, that's not right. And I knew that he looked at me in a certain way, and it was very uncomfortable for me. He knew that I was avoiding all of his comments and insinuations, and this time he was very assertive and wanted a response. And I remember at that time, which was at the end of the year, when I looked him in the eyes, it really took me back.
Because you felt something.
I did, yeah.
What did you say to him?
Well, there was a series, there was a lead up to his directness. He started with, "I'm in love with someone." And I just said, "Oh." And I was really hoping it wasn't me. And at the end of a series of questions, basically he said that he was in love with me. And
Mary, what did you say?
I said, can you hold that for a long, long time?
And later, how did they go from that to this when we return? Willie Falau was only 12 the first time he and Mary kissed. What kind of a woman falls in love with a 12-year-old boy? In this case, a carefully raised woman from a conservative religious family with more than their share of tragedy and scandal. Mary Kay Letourneau was the fourth of 7 children of a highly educated Catholic family. She grew up mostly in the privileged precincts of Southern California, attending Catholic schools. Her mother, also named Mary, was a strong-willed advocate for conservative family values. Her charismatic father, John Schmitz, was a professor of philosophy and a U.S. congressman, as well as a member of the extremist right-wing John Birch Society.
New York has a higher percentage of immorality than any other city.
He was against homosexuality, sex education, and making condoms available to young people. He ran for president in 1972 as a candidate for the right-wing American Party.
The American people have been conned.
Mary seemed a happy child, but when she was 11, her childhood was marred by a terrible accident. Mary and an older sibling were playing in the pool when her 3-year-old brother slipped into the water unseen. How did that tragedy affect you?
I think for everyone, the loss of a family member is, well, you called it a tragedy. It's tragic.
There was something else that happened when you were young. When you were a teenager, you learned that your father had a mistress and 2 illegitimate children. This was highly publicized because your father was well known. Did you forgive him?
I don't remember ever thinking that there was something to forgive my father for. I just prayed for my mother and that the 2 of them would work through it.
Did they?
Yes, they did. And I want to say that it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen is how they came together as a couple after that.
You've gone through a lot of pain in your life.
I think everybody does. I think that's life.
Her father's mistress had been his student. 14 years later, in the spring of 1996, his daughter Mary was heading for a scandal of her own with her own student lover. Her student, 12-year-old Willie Falau, had just told Mary that he was in love with her. Here's this 13-year-old boy. He tells you he loves you. You are feeling something. Are you confused? Are you upset? How are you feeling?
I wasn't sure that he really knew what he was saying.
And then what? When did it go from that to a relationship?
I started to realize that he's very serious about his feelings, and this is not a crush that he's dealing with.
Why not? Kids get crushes on their teachers.
Well, and I had seen that before, and this was different.
You were 34, he was 13. Did you try to resist this? Did you know that this was something that was wrong, or that society would see as wrong?
I definitely knew that it was bizarre. And I was absolutely sure that there was nothing that he could do to persuade me to have an intimate relationship.
But you did get into a relationship.
I
then.
did.
How? What happened? What was that step?
There was a kiss, and I thought, that's okay, but it's not going to go any further.
But I'm trying very hard to find out what happened next. One day he kisses you on the lips, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes from that to this very intimate sexual relationship. What was the incident that turned it into that?
The incident was a late night that it didn't stop with a kiss. And I thought that it would, and it didn't.
Did you feel guilty?
I thought, how did it get to this?
Was it very passionate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Throughout the summer, Mary and Villy spent more and more time together. In fact, Villy was scarcely home. And so it became a very serious relationship?
Yes, it became an erratic relationship, a relationship where they didn't seem to care about the rules of society, where she would meet him after class or in her classroom, where they would go off into her van on school grounds to have sex, where they would just hang out in public like they were a couple, like they didn't understand what they were doing was wrong.
Did you think about the consequences? Did you think of what might have happened if this were found out?
I was more thinking that it doesn't look right, the age difference. And then I was thinking, well, you know, it's certainly not the custom here. And I thought, well, I've heard of this in other places in the world. At the time, I didn't know that it was a crime. Yes.
Villy has said that you made love in every room in your house, that you made love in the school. It sounds like the most intense physical passion.
I can't see how it wouldn't be that type of intensity with anyone that is truly in love.
Did you think about your children?
Absolutely. And I knew that this is not a time to be in a relationship.
But you couldn't help yourself?
I expected at the end of summer that he was going to continue in school, and that a few years down the line,
maybe then you'd be together?
yeah.
Your husband was suspicious of you and Villy. He thought that something was happening. Yes?
Oh, I would say it was more than a suspicion.
In the fall, Villy, now 13, entered 7th grade. By then, Mary was pregnant with his child. And the secret was about to come out. You got pregnant? Did you consider an abortion?
No.
In October, Steve Letourneau found letters that Mary had written to Villy. Now he knew his wife was not only having an affair, but she was pregnant by him.
He was pregnant, and I knew it.
And you knew it was by the boy?
Yeah.
And you confronted her?
I confronted her, and she denied it. I confronted him, and he affirmed.
Villy was asked about the confrontation with Steve Letourneau in a civil deposition a few years later.
He said he doesn't want me calling the house or having anything to do with Mary. And if I do get in contact with her, he's gonna call the cops.
Were you still involved then with Villy? Was it still a relationship?
We tried to separate. There was still, I was trying, he was trying less than I was trying.
But the love and the passion remained.
Yes.
Steve Letourneau told members of his family about what was going on. One of his relatives called the authorities. In February 1997, after she left a faculty meeting at school, Mary was arrested by a Seattle detective. She was arraigned on charges of child rape. You were arrested. Mary, how did you feel?
By that time, I knew that I could be held responsible. And I'm sure that I would have, a penalty of some sort. I was imagining there's probably some community service hours for situations like this. And I actually didn't think that I needed an attorney even.
And later, Mary and Villy's surprising approach to parenthood. When we return, what did you tell your children about how you met and what you went through? After her affair with Villy Falau was discovered, Mary Kay Letourneau was arrested and charged with raping a child. By the time she was arraigned, she was 7 months pregnant with Villy's baby. In May, while awaiting trial, Mary gave birth to a daughter, Audrey. A few months later, Mary appeared before the judge.
She is an adult who sexually abused a boy, a 6th grade child.
Doctors testified that Mary was bipolar.
You are a bipolar woman. You have a 30% chance of having a very severe breakdown.
Mary was facing a sentence of 7 years, during which she would be separated from her new baby and 4 other children.
This has been an extremely difficult case.
Your Honor, I did something that I had no right to do, morally or legally. I give you my word that it will not happen again. Please help me. Help us all.
Mary took a plea bargain, a suspended sentence of 7.5 years, with mandatory counseling and 6 months in county jail. After serving 6 months, Mary was released. She moved into a friend's house, and there was one other condition Mary had to meet. She wasn't allowed to see Villy, or she'd end up in prison. But Mary had no intention of following the conditions of her parole. She started to see Villy again. Within a month, Mary and Villy were caught together. It was 3 a.m. in the morning, and Mary and Villy were in Mary's car just a block from her home. In the quiet neighborhood, the police thought it was odd that 2 people were sitting in a parked car. Mary was rearrested. The press couldn't get enough of the spectacle. They chased her into the courtroom for her resentencing, practically giddy with excitement.
Will you go out with me when you get out?
And today, obviously, she did not want to appear on camera.
Obviously, it's been a very drying day for her.
Last Monday, she was caught inside a steamed-up car with the boy she was ordered to leave alone. At first, both gave phony names.
I took Mary back to my patrol car where she finally told me who she was. The boy who was in the car with her was in fact the father of her baby.
He told me that they had not had sex that night, that there had been no sexual contact. He described to me, however, that there was, they held hands. He held her. They kissed frequently in the car.
There was another bombshell. Mary was pregnant again with Billy's child, conceived during the weeks she had been out on parole. The public reaction was intense. TV commentators painted her as a predator.
She groomed and then raped a child.
Well, it is important through all of this, as Mary Kay Letourneau gets all this attention, to remember that she is a convicted rapist and Billy Fulau is a victim.
Her estranged husband, Steve, was shocked.
As far as my reaction, I think it's disbelief, denial for a long time that a person could possibly basically jeopardize everything that they know in their life, their family, their marriage, their home, profession, and last but certainly not least, the children.
Her own lawyer said she was mentally unstable.
She needs help. Everything she's been doing, her comments, her attitude, her happiness at being pregnant in prison, that's someone that's manic. Mary, what is your reaction? Mary, how do you feel? Mary, was it worth it?
You were given the opportunity, Miss Letourneau, for treatment. Within weeks of your release from jail, you purposely violated the conditions of your sentence. These violations are extraordinarily egregious and profoundly disturbing.
Mary's actions seemed senseless and immoral to most of the world, but she told me she had her reasons. Mary, you were told when you got out to stay away from Billy. Why didn't you?
I was told when I took the plea that I could remain in relationship with my children. I was being offered a counseling or treatment option as opposed to going to prison. What happened was that wasn't true. I wasn't told the truth. 2 days after my sentencing, the person that was designated to be in charge of that counseling treatment program told me that just like the men in his program, I would have no contact with any of my children. Not an I love you through your mother, not a birthday card, nothing. And furthermore, he said he would decide whether I ever had my parental rights. Again, at that very moment, I decided that I will go to prison so that I can pick up the phone and say, I love you to my children.
You were told that if you saw Billy, you would have to go back into prison, but you decided since you were not able to see your children, you were going to go to prison anyway? Is that it?
Yes, that is it.
You didn't mind serving 7 more years?
I didn't believe it was going to be that long. I felt certain that what had happened procedurally in my case, that it would be taken care of. I thought maybe a year, maybe 2 at the most.
But the judge was furious. She sentenced Mary to the full term.
The suspended sentence is hereby revoked, and the original sentence that I imposed not long ago of 89 months is imposed.
Mary was sent to the Washington Correction Center for Women, a medium security state prison. Steve and her 4 children by him moved to Alaska. On October 16, Mary gave birth to her second daughter by Villie, Georgia. Villie's mother took care of the 2 babies and brought them to the prison to see Mary regularly throughout the next 7 years. When you were in prison, were you then able to see your older children?
Yes, I did see all 6 of my children.
Your children were now growing up without a mother. How did you feel about that?
Well, prison is not a safe place to touch emotions. There's not a lot of support there for that. And something as deep as the pain that my children went through, I'm afraid to touch that pain. It's not my pain, it's the pain that I know that they went through, and they still go to sleep at night and their mother's not there.
How did you get through it?
Well, I lived through it by not touching the pain.
During the first 2 years of her prison sentence, Mary spent 18 months in solitude. She found it difficult to adjust to life in prison. How did she get along with the other prisoners?
The prisoners hated her.
Really?
They
Why?
absolutely did, because she had so many followers and so much attention, and they felt that, she was a star. She was somebody that the media wanted to talk to, and the other prisoners did not like it.
Prison did not stop Mary from staying in touch with Villie. How did she do that?
Mary stayed in touch with Villie in a lot of different ways. One way was to send out messages in the milk bottles that she was expressing milk in prison for her babies. So she put little notes in the caps, and they went out. She sent audio tapes out. She had prisoners make phone calls for her because she could not contact him directly.
Did Villie have girlfriends?
Yes, he did. He had other girlfriends while she was in prison, and that infuriated Mary.
What did she do about it?
I remember listening to an audio tape she made in prison where she was using swear words, and she was telling Villie not to leave her, that if he did, someone might have to die.
What did she mean?
I don't know exactly what she meant, Barbara, but it scared me.
After serving the full 7 years, Mary was released in August of 2004. Accompanied by a swarm of journalists, she registered as required by law as a sex offender. Villie was now 21 years old. No longer a minor, he could have contact with Mary. How long, how much time was it after you got out of prison that you were in contact with Villie?
Oh,
a day?
Not too many hours after the no contact order was lifted.
Did he call you or did you call him?
I waited for him to call me.
Have you been intimate with Villie?
Well, what we most like about this part of our life right now is that it's nobody's business.
You've suffered. Your children have suffered. Your family has suffered. Did you realize that any of this would happen?
Not even a little bit of it.
Mary, was it worth it?
I don't look at life that way. I do my best. So if you asked me that question, did you do your best through every situation? There were, I can say I did my best. I did. I did do my best.
10 years later, I asked her the same question. I want to ask you what I asked you 10 years ago. Was it worth it?
Where I am in my life.
Can I cut you off?
Why not?
Can you ask
always
exactly
do.
how you asked it? And you just reply, yes.
When we return. When I sat down recently with Mary and Billy, I was very conscious of the time that had passed. They have been a couple for nearly 20 years, married for 10. Their 2 daughters are teenagers now. At 53, Mary is still beautiful. At 31, Billy is a mature young man. As you might imagine, with this most unusual couple, it was a most unusual interview. Describe Billy. What kind of a husband is he?
He's the kind of husband that I love, that's for sure. He's spontaneous.
Spontaneous?
I like that. I love that, actually. So there's never a dull moment, for sure.
They married in 2005, 10 months after Mary finished serving her 7-year prison sentence. Entertainment Tonight bought the broadcast rights to their wedding for a reported $750,000.
You're going to be Mrs. Billy Falau. What do you think?
It's about time.
Was there ever a time when you thought, I don't want to marry Billy?
There wasn't a time that I didn't want to, but I didn't necessarily expect it, because it's a long time to be away, so.
Billy had all these years to find someone else, but you remained in your heart and your mind faithful. How did you hang on to that relationship in your head?
Barbara, he wasn't faithful.
Well, was she in your mind?
Yeah, during that time, yes. A lot.
Did you think you would be together one day?
Oh, yeah, I knew.
Have there been 10 good years?
10 good years?
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever a full 10 good years in marriage, but, you know, you have your ups and downs in marriages. But, you know, what matters is how you pull through all the bad times.
What kept you together?
Just knowing each other and choosing to be with each other to begin with, because of our compatibility and just our passions in life. And if it wasn't strong enough in the beginning, it wouldn't have carried through those years. And it was. So
neither one of you have said because I loved him or because I loved her. Was it love?
Oh, that. I thought that was just for granted.
Just thought
yeah.
that was taken for granted.
Yeah.
Do you ever notice the age difference with each other?
Do you?
Not really. We don't think about that on a daily basis. So at all. We're just carrying on in life and with our girls.
Mary now works as a legal assistant in a law office, and Billy works as a DJ at parties and in clubs. Although in recent years they have avoided the media, they are anything but anonymous in the Seattle suburb where they live. Are they public at all? Do people recognize them or know them?
Everybody in Seattle knows them, and when they see them, they often, you know, put pictures up on Facebook or whatever. They're Mary Kay Letourneau and Billy Falau. They're sort of our famous, infamous couple.
Mary, Billy, and their children still live in the same school district where Mary used to teach.
They are in school with teachers that I used to work with. So where we didn't move away, and our girls are there, and they're welcomed, and we all are.
Why did you do that, Mary? Wouldn't it have been easier to move and start fresh?
Why? It was just coming home, that's all.
What did you tell your children about how you met and what you went through?
There was never a sit-down chat, and now is the time we're gonna talk to our children about this. They seem to already know.
They just kind of got the story a little bit from the media, like, this just pretty much the highlights of, we're different age. I was once her student, she was a teacher, and fell in love and had a relationship, and they blossomed out of that.
But the whole having to go to jail, everything that went with it, did they know that?
I don't think they know, like, the real core of, of everything that we actually went through.
So anyway, our girls knew that we were separated, that mommy and daddy were separated.
Did they know why?
I can't remember exactly the phrasing, but that it was about breaking the rules.
Do your daughters know now why you went to prison?
That would be the same, that would be the same answer. Except now they know that when mommy said rule before, mommy meant law.
If one of your daughters came to you and said, I'm sleeping with my teacher, what would you say? When we return. A blaze of publicity and outrage surrounded the Mary Kay Letourneau story. Most of it was focused on Mary. But what about Billy? How did all this affect him? We've been talking so much to Mary, but it has not been an easy road for you. You suffered from depression, yes?
A lot.
And alcoholism. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Are you still depressed?
I don't know anymore. I don't know if I'm
What made the
depressed.
difference?
Life, pretty much. Just, you're not going to fix any of your problems if you're sitting around. So you got to get up and do something about it.
After Mary Kay went to prison, Billy had a difficult time. Although he received some counseling and took antidepressants, he did not find either helpful. He dropped out of high school, had brushes with the law, and drifted. Billy, what kind of help do you wish you had been given?
If you're going to call someone a victim, make sure that that victim is getting all the help that they deserve and need. There was a grieving moment, for the entire family on both sides, my family and Mary's family. Everything was exploited onto the news, and then everyone just kind of left alone. There was no real guidance or help to figure out how to get yourself through this. The whole thing was kind of just traumatizing for me.
Billy, you became a father when you were just 14 years old. Tell me about that time.
It was a huge change in my life, for sure. I don't feel like I had the right support. I mean, my friends couldn't help me because they had no idea what it was like to be a parent. I mean, because we were all 14, 15. And then my family, they kind of had like their own idea what was going to happen. Once my daughters were born, I was kind of pushed out the picture.
How did you get through it?
Went through a really dark time, and I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's a feeling where it's like there's this hopelessness. You just feel like you can't do anything, like nobody understands you. You can't talk to anyone. You're out of school, you're not really learning anything, and you don't really know how to write a full paragraph, and You just wanted to express yourself to someone and let someone understand you, but you can't.
You feel sad?
I feel sad for a lot of parts of my life. When I start thinking about those things, you know, I think about like all the beauty that's come from it, you know, and where can I take that and run with it, you know?
You have a loving wife, 10-year marriage. That's more than a lot of people have. 2 beautiful daughters. Does that give you a happy feeling?
A happy thing for sure. Yes, I feel very, very safe.
Very safe.
Yeah.
There it is. There it is.
Billy and Mary's daughters are only a little older than Billy was when he became a father, but they're growing up very differently, which is how Mary and Billy want it. If one of your daughters came to you and said, "I'm sleeping with my teacher," what would you say?
What? I think it would be the same reaction that any parent would have, you know, if their child came up and said, you know, I'm in love with my teacher.
What about if they said they were sleeping with anyone? We would say the same thing. So,
what would you say?
I just don't like hearing it. I don't know really how to deal with it, really.
in general, we like that our girls don't have a steady relationship of any kind right now. Keep them busy and focused on their activities and talking about college, and I would think parents don't want their children sexually involved at any point in their growing years. That's all. I don't think age.
When you're that young, you know, you don't really know what you want. And so don't ever get too serious about it. Don't put your all into something when you know it's just temporary.
Billy, you fell in love with Mary when you were 14 years old, and you're giving advice to your daughters not to get involved with any young man?
Yeah, sounds crazy. Yeah.
Don't you feel a little bit hypocritical?
Yes, I do.
You do, but so what?
Yeah.
Their daughters seem well adjusted and take their unusual family circumstances in stride. Introduce me to your beautiful daughters.
This is Georgia. Barbara.
And Georgia's how old?
Georgia's 16.
16.
Audrey's 17.
Yeah. Do you know the story of how they met?
Yes, I do. I do.
Who is stricter, mom or dad?
Mom. I think they're pretty equal.
They're clearly a close family. In the 10 years since I had last seen her, Mary had transformed her life into something that seemed, well, strangely normal. I remember 10 years ago. I remember all the turmoil. And to see you here now, you're an old married couple with 2 kids. Whatever happened to the 2 of you?
Yeah.
I want to ask you what I asked you 10 years ago. Was it worth it?
Where I am in my life.
Can I cut you off?
Why not?
Can you ask exactly
do.
how you asked it? And you just reply, yes.
Okay, Mary.
I wouldn't
Thank
say
you.
that.
Thank you, Billy. Mary, was it worth it?
Where I am today,
Yeah.
where we are today, and our children, my older children, yes.
Some people will see a love story in the tale of Mary Kay Letourneau and Billy Falau. Others may forever call it a crime. For Investigation Discovery, I'm Barbara Walters. 7 years in prison. When you got out, what is it like for you? What kinds of things did you find you missed the most?
Well, I was in shock, and I'm still in shock. It's a world of change. for me, and just having my own pillow was very important to me.